Welcome, one and all, to the Black Psychologist Podcast, episode 55. Appreciate everyone joining us out there. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. We appreciate that. I am one half of your humble and gracious host, Dr. Kyle Osborne. He is I, and I am him. And of course, you all know that I'm never here by myself. I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend. He lays it out for y'all to play it out. Dr. Jason Coleman, what's going on, good brother?
What's going on, bro? How you, man?
Pretty good, man. Doing well. How's everything?
Man, good. It's good to be back, of course. Just want to thank everybody that's hanging with us, riding with us. Everybody's been supporting us. We appreciate it. Love the comments, love the interaction. So we just want to encourage everybody to keep that up and just thank you for, taking the time to listen.
Absolutely. Loving the feedback, loving the conversation in the comments. So please continue to do so, to share, to comment, to like all the other good stuff on all the different platforms. We absolutely appreciate it. Jay, man, I feel like a lot happened since we last got on. I feel like it's the universe, man. Like as soon as we finished, it was like a whole like plethora of things came out. People started just wilding out, man, on purpose. And my paranoia kicked in, like, yeah, they're doing this on purpose. Like they're doing it to us on purpose. I don't like that. I really don't.
Yo, I don't know what it was, man, but it's just news on. We was just talking about this news cycle was turning over real quick, right? With just a lot of stuff in sports, entertainment, pop culture, all of that stuff, man. But that's how the world is, man. But I think it's more, honestly, I think it's more a reflection of people's attention spans, because you couldn't even, with stuff that happened a week ago, feels like it happened like a month ago. You know what I mean? Like that's how it is, a lot of the time now. So it's crazy.
Yeah, you're right about that, man. So we definitely have a lot to cover. Kicking things off, it's football season, Jay. We are big sports fans. Unfortunately, my team is not doing very well right now. Yours has resurged and has come back to life, like the phoenix has risen from the ashes.
Hey, man, my condolences to your team, man. But we don't know anything about that. Yeah. We pick up the baton and we keep rolling.
Next man up.
So my condolences to your season, brother. But
yeah, it's not looking good right now.
We do it different. We do it different down here, man.
Yeah, it's not looking good for us, man, and unfortunately, it's not looking good for Tua, the Miami quarterback down down there with the Dolphins. So just to backtrack for people that aren't aware, so last Sunday, on September 25th, the Miami Dolphins were playing the Buffalo Bills in Miami. And their quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, I always mess up his last name. We're just gonna call him Tua T. All right, that's what I'm gonna do. All right, so Tua was dropping back and he hit his head on the ground on a tackle, right? And it was at the point after that he got thrown down to the ground, he got tackled. He struggled back to his feet. All right, and he shook his head multiple times, trying to get his bearings together and get his balance. And then he stumbled badly back when he was trying to jog back to the team's huddle. And Jay, I don't know if you saw it, but it looked like, I mean, not to make light of it, but it looked like he had just caught a combination from Mike Tyson, bro. Like that's
the first one.
The first one. Yeah, he looked like he was stumbling, like
it looked like
really disoriented.
I mean, obviously we know he wasn't drunk, but it looked like how people walk when they're stumbling when they're drunk, right?
Right. Yeah. So
or like you said, like when they get, in boxing,
Absolutely. It was it looked pretty bad. And so he eventually had to be propped up by his teammates. Like his teammates actually had to prop him back up and he exited the game. However, Tua returned to the game after a brief medical evaluation and being cleared by the Dolphins team physician and an independent neurologist. And then he came back in the game and he led his team to the victory. All right. They won that game. So fast forward to last Thursday. All right. So the Dolphins are playing the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. And Tua was thrown back to the ground in another play. I want to say this was towards the end of the first quarter and the second quarter. But on another drop back, he was thrown down to the turf, head whipped back, hit his head on the turf on the grass. And it was a really scary scene. For the reason that when you saw the replay, you saw that his fingers had this unnatural reaction. All right. And for a lot of people who don't know what that is, what took place was that it's a term called posturing or fencing. It's when typically it was really concerning because it's typically an effect or something that takes place when usually there's a neurological issue, and typically is based on, more specifically in this case, is when some form of head trauma or a concussion takes place. All right. So and his fingers are rigid like that, and they contort like that for the reason that it's like the electrical signals are being sent out to the muscles, and again, as a result of some form of head trauma. He was carted off the field, and he was taken to the hospital for further evaluation. He was able to fly home to Miami with the rest of the teammates after the game, I think early the next morning. And so he's been ruled out of this coming week's game, and the fallout continues, Jay. So a lot of blame and a lot of responsibility is being thrown around. Over the weekend, the Associated Press said that the NFL Players Association had fired the unaffiliated neurotrauma consultant, or the UNC, that each team has, who evaluated Tua after he had stumbled off the field against the Buffalo Bills the previous Sunday. So that's pretty much what's happening. And again, there's still a topic of conversation. Jay, I'm gonna call this what this is. All right. Tua's injury exposed what the NFL's priority is, right? Which is what? Making money. Right. We saw that it's clear as day. Like, because let me ask you this. After that Buffalo Bills game, what was the story? Right? What did they talk about? They didn't talk about his head. They didn't talk about the injury. They talked about him winning the game, right? They talked about him coming out, suffering an injury, but then coming back and then leading them to victory. And then they went on, I think they were 3-0 after that victory. So he only missed a total of 4 snaps after he got hit in that game and was taken out. 4 snaps before going back and being evaluated and being given the okay by the doctors. Where the league's rule explicitly suggests that, he should have never been ruled or never been allowed to come back in the game. Like, at that point in time, his helmet should have been taken and he should have went into the protocol.
But that's my point. Like, the Dolphins was in their own world because, I saw that. Anybody who saw that game on Sunday, right? Mm-hmm. It just expected to kind of read the injury report and have him out on Thursday. Right? That's just natural because, again, I'm not a neurologist. I'm not, any of those, I'm not trying to play medical doctor, but clearly when he couldn't walk after the hit, and clearly he hit his head, right? So the fact that he came back into the game, the people that was calling the game and commenting on the game was talking about that, right? Mm-hmm. Then all during the week, no, he wasn't on the injury report, but people were just assuming that he was going to be out. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because, like, just common sense, if you have a concussion, whether you have active symptoms or not, they're still going to tell you to rest. You know what I mean? To not exacerbate symptoms that you do have, or just so that, your brain has some time to kind of get back to normal, right? Mm-hmm. But what nobody's going to tell you to do is less than 200 hours, later to get back on the football field, right? And in that article, I was looking at that that tweet from the neuroscientist before Thursday when he said if Tua takes the field tonight, it's a massive step back for concussion care in the NFL. If he has a second concussion that destroys his season or career, everyone involved will be sued and should lose their jobs, coaches included. We saw it. We all saw it. Even they must know it's not right. So I'm not crazy. I'm not an MD. I was just watching TV, and I knew he should have been out. You understand what I'm saying? That's a neuroscientist that went
Right.
to Harvard. So again, obviously, it comes down to the warrior mentality that the players have, but it shouldn't really be up to the players, right? You should have somebody or an objective protocol that says if you hit your head, you're out.
See, that's the
Right.
thing, right? This is what they did. They dressed it, or they proclaimed that it was a back injury, right? So
Right. I
that's how they
remember.
said,
I remember.
yeah. So they
But then,
proclaimed it, they labeled it as a back injury, and so that allowed him to not go into the concussion protocol. And again, the warrior mentality kicks in. They want to continue that lead. They want to continue to win the game. They're up against Buffalo. It's a rival team. But and I know, like when he got up, he was shaking out the cobwebs, right? Like
yeah,
is gross motor instability. That's what that is, because he didn't have his
bro,
bearings, so
but
there
they
was
can
no back
label it
injury.
like they can label it all that they want, right? But these lion eyes, right? The people that were watching the broadcast, they were saying, well, they're labeling a back injury, but we all saw him hit his head.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, it just makes them look worse. You know what I mean? And then it's like you go to the history, of course, with the settlements and not wanting to pay the ex players, and CTE, and there's still kind of like a cloud over that. The NFL won't say that it doesn't exist now, but they had to be sued so that they would stop saying that it's, you know what I mean? It's non-existent. So just with their history, adding the 17th game, all of those things, that the last thing they're worried about is player kind of health. You know what I mean? But what do you expect? I mean, listen, they view these players as, expendable, they view them as, property, and again, they're going to use them up and then move on to the next one. So that's why, with stuff like this, that's why when you see players and you see situations like Lamar Jackson, you kind of gotta understand why these players want to cash in when they can.
Totally.
You know what I mean? So listen, we don't gotta spend that long on this, but it's just another example of you have limited time to kind of cash in. One thing I do want to say is though, I think it is time for them to start looking at the objective kind of measures, for these concussions and some of the biomarkers and those type of things. I think it's time for them to kind of look at a little like those tests a little bit more carefully, because obviously relying on just, the independent doctor, that flies with the team everywhere and stays in the suites and
Right.
is with the players.
And that's another thing, because as the unaffiliated neurotrauma consultant, as they're called, right? So each team has, I think, they have the team physician, and then they have
Right.
3 UNCs, the neurotrauma consultants. But here's the thing. So they're jointly paid, right? These consultants are jointly paid by the Players Association and by the league. So how unaffiliated can they be? Right? If you're receiving a check from the people that are paying you to be there, it's not like, okay, you're a contractor, right? You're being contracted by a different organization or hospital. You see what I mean? It's like,
Well,
because you're still answering to the team. Like the team, again, that they're in a situation where it's like, hey, we want this player to be out there. So they still have, you know what I mean?
well, it's kind of, listen, and I'm not coming at you, but it's like I kind of see why they're paying, why half the team pays half the bill than than the NFL, because again, somebody has to pay them. You know what I mean? Somebody has to pay them. They're not gonna do it for free. And if the team paid them, then we will be saying, well, they just on the payroll. You know what I mean? So at least if the NFL foots half the bill, then they could say, well, this person isn't totally employed by the team. But listen, you need some type of objective measure.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying. It needs to be as I know it's not as simple as this, but it needs to be as simple as this person hit their head, so they're out.
And that's the thing. Like they intentionally didn't label it a head injury, so he didn't have to go to the protocol, because the protocol
But you
requires them to
understand
be in
what
more
you're
plays.
saying?
You know what I mean?
You
That's why they
understand what
do
you're
it. So
saying?
they're just slick with it.
Bro, I can fall and injure my knee and tell you that it's a shoulder injury. It doesn't mean if everybody was watching and watched me land on my knee, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. It just means, okay, it's like they said it was a back. But how long have we been watching sports where they're like, where Bill Belichick is like, well, it's a leg injury. And you're like, is it an ankle? Is it a high ankle sprain? Did he break his ankle? Is it a toe sprain? Like when they said that, they were saying that because they're like, well, what do we have to say so that he can finish the game? You know what I mean? And they were just hoping that he just got his bell rung. You know what I mean? But obviously it was more than that. So
way more, you know.
That back stuff, I mean, every time these players get hit, it's probably a back injury.
Or it's an oblique injury. That's another key one. Yeah. Right. And then, like the objective measures that need to be put in place, and also just for the reason that at any point in time, like you said, you have the players have the war mentality, and not also are they worrying about that, but they're also, concerned that, hey, if I get hurt, I'm taken out, I can lose my job. I might not get the spot back. So right. When any individual or a player gets hurt, like especially in the manner that Tua did, like they've lost control internally, right? They've lost the ability to make an actual logical, sound decision that's regarding their health. So that's where you have these, objective measures. You have other people, coaches. You at least, hopefully, the coaches would be somewhat involved and have some care that they're going to take control externally and take this person's helmet and say, listen, you're not going back in that game. All right. We got to assess the injury. And then also we got to give your brain a chance to heal. Like, and I know, even through our studies, that it takes anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks just for the brain to get back to baseline after a major concussion or after any type of TBI or brain injury. Right. But my man went 4 days later.
Yeah, 4 days
later. Like, it's a massive, disgusting, because you got to think about, okay, what is even Tua experiencing right now, right? Like, we know the after effects, we know the symptoms that individuals experience after a head injury. So of course he's going to get up there and say, I'm good, it's fine, for blah, 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 blah. But like, I can only imagine the symptoms that he's experiencing afterwards, the vomiting, the other different symptoms, like the disorientation, all these other different things. But it was just a massive failure on the NFL side. And now they've gone into self-preservation. They're firing the consultant. They're doing all the different things so they can try to sidestep things. And it's nasty, man. It's very nasty. I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know. I have a feeling I wouldn't be surprised if you see some type of, I don't know anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if you saw some type of lawsuit coming from the doctor at some point as well.
Oh, because, yeah. It's gonna
because I'm sure that the culture played a part, and how this played out, because they didn't necessarily fire him for his
for the evaluation, right?
They didn't necessarily fire him for letting Tua go back into the game. Like, if you looked at the quote, it's like they fired him for, like, I forget the language they used, but it's very specific things that they said. Right. They were just like specific protocols that were not followed.
It was like a lead up. It was like more of a totality thing.
But you know what that means a lot of times when it comes to, things that are in the fine print that nobody ever does. Mm-hmm. And then when it comes time for a review or something, people want to be a stickler for those same things. So who knows how it plays out, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was a lawsuit. So we'll see.
And we'll see. All right. Moving on to another sport. All right. Because NBA is getting ready to kick off in a couple of weeks with their regular season.
Right.
But unfortunately, you hope to think that it's just going to be just regular scouting reports and preseason games that's going to be in. But nah, it's not that. It doesn't go that way. All right. So the Phoenix Suns. All right. So their owner, or soon to be ex-owner, whatever his name is, Sarver, right? So Sarver was recently suspended by the NBA for a year, and they fined him $10 million as a result of an investigation that found that he had engaged in hostile and racially insensitive, inappropriate behavior over the course of 18 years, Jay. 18 years. All right. So the one incident that was that's notable is that he repeatedly used the N-word while questioning why the Golden State Warriors, Draymond Green, who was black, could use the term when Sarver could not. So he was upset that he couldn't use the word, but a black player could. All right. Also, he allegedly engaged in instances regarding conduct towards female employees. He made many sex-related comments in the workplace. He made inappropriate comments about the physical appearance of female employees and other women. And on several occasions, he engaged in inappropriate physical conduct towards male employees. He also yelled and cursed at employees, and he was sending emails of pornographic videos to staffers and employees. So yeah. So I was gonna read a little bit of his apology letter because I thought that was pretty hilarious. All right. So he said, the words that I deeply regret now overshadow nearly 2 decades of building organizations that have brought people together and strengthened in Phoenix area, and through the uniting power of men's professional basketball and women's basketball. He said, as a man of faith, I believe in atonement and the path to forgiveness. And I expected the commissioner's 1-year suspension would provide time for me to focus and make amends and remove my personal controversy from the teams that I so love and my many fans love. But in our current unforgiving climate, it has become painfully clear that this is no longer possible. And whatever good that I have done or could still do is outweighed by things that I have said in the past. So for those reasons, I am beginning the process of seeking buyers for the Suns and the Mercury. And he doesn't want to be a distraction. How about that, Jay? All right, so let me get this straight. Okay. So he was using the N-word. He was bullying staff physically and verbally. There was sexual harassment also. Jay, this is like a triple double in the workplace violations, bro. Like he was all over the place. Like my man was like Mr. Inappropriate over the course of 18 years. And I feel like just at first glance that this doesn't feel like the punishment fits the crime. Like 1 year, $10 million to someone that is worth, I'm sure.
I think I mean, I feel like it does now because he has to sell the team.
But see, he has to sell the team. He has to sell the team just because people started pulling out like the bottom dollar.
That's the point. You got to remember when we're talking about punishment fitting the crime. That's the perfect punishment because
I mean they should have voted him out.
You cannot. You're talking about a man that can buy anything he wants. The only way you punish a person that has resources and reach beyond anything you can imagine is to take something from them that they have no control over. Wealthy people value toys. They don't value. They find them $10 million, bro. For most people, that would be devastating. It would affect generations. It's ashtray money to him. So when we're talking about an appropriate punishment, they're not going to put him in jail. You know what I mean? Because it's not a violent crime. So with people of that amount of wealth, you have to take things from them that they can't control.
So I agree with taking the team from him. However, I don't like the manner in which it took place, right? So as the only thing we can compare this to is to Sterling, right? A few years ago, where the situation was where when the information came out and this guy was even more oblivious when he went on and did this interview, which made him look even worse, right? The teams, like all the owners got together. All the owners got together along with the commissioner and they voted him out. They said, no, this cannot continue, so on and so forth. With this, it was a situation originally he gets the 1 year suspension and again that gets the $10 million fine. And then it took more of sponsors pulling out, and then it took the players speaking out. So that's what I didn't like, because for that reason, like it should have been originally the same situation with Donald Sterling. Like they could have voted him out because we've seen it done before. So it was more like they were like, oh well, all right, because they're losing money, right? Sponsors are pulling out. The NBA is getting this black eye, right? Because you're going to keep this guy around, right? You're going to just let him sit someplace for a year, like you said, that $10 million, that's nothing, but he gets to come back in 1 year. So that's what I didn't like about the fact that they ruled it out.
But they're totally different situations because listen, Donald Sterling was on tape. And he was on tapes. He was on tape where people could hear it and play it over and over and over and over again. And he was on tape talking about Magic Johnson. So you're talking about a man that is a legend in LA. You're talking about a owner in Jeannie Buss that's obviously not going to appreciate that, and a bunch of other owners that aren't going to appreciate that. No, you're gone. That's different. That's different than something that everybody he sees, he's going to be like, it's overreaction. Oh, it's this. Oh, and they was reading. I mean, some of the texts are available, but what makes it different, again, in this situation, and I kind of think makes it better is player pressure, right? So Draymond Green said, "Yo, they need to force a vote for the owners," right? This is all before all of a sudden he has to sell the team. Then they're talking about he's getting calls with pressure for him to sell the team from LeBron James, Chris Paul, right? To me, we've always talked about the league was majority, African-American, males, obviously, but it's run by the owners who don't kind of share, those same characteristics. But now we're seeing, fan pressure, public pressure, and the players, you know what I mean, actually be able to create this movement. I don't think it's a bad thing. Like what you're saying, we still talking about with these owners, bro. We still talking about a bunch of people who all belong to a certain group that traditionally defend each other and defend their behavior, right? We're talking about rich men. Think about what he said. Rich, entitled people with no insight. In his apology, right, he decided to give the public a lecture about how in our current climate, they're unforgiving, right? So he's going to shame you, right? And then he's going to say, I'm so rich that I could still be helping people, but I won't because you're taking my team.
Don't forget,
right? All the good I could still do.
Don't forget, he recycled the trope of the good religious man who made one mistake.
Right. So think about it. So he's gonna say that the world is cruel, right? Make himself a victim, right? Yeah. Then put himself on a pedestal and say he's a man of faith, right?
He definitely externalized that blame.
So come on, bro. Like, listen. But this is a man like who was sending porn to his employees.
And that's what I mean. Like,
using racial slurs, behaving inappropriately with women, and physically aggressive and threatening with men. So he is the opposite of everything he described.
Right.
Think about it. Think about how crazy of a person you have to be. Well, let me not use the word crazy, but think about how odd of a person and not normal you have to be to not be able to hold it together for 8 hours. Everybody that that you work with has quirks about them, but most of them can hold it together for 8 hours. Now you ask their family about them, and their family have a whole different idea. Well, but
he didn't have to because given his position, he was able to use his power and his sway to suppress the truth. Right? He was doing that for years. Everyone's afraid to speak out. Everyone's kind of working probably in fear. They're concerned. You have to tolerate that. They have to tolerate his behavior for the reason that it's his organization. And so you had to kind of see how the NBA, when they kept doing even more of an investigation, because I believe this was like the separate second investigation, because the first one was they didn't really find much, but they had to continue to dig more, and then they unearthed how toxic it ran within this organization. And so that's what I didn't like was like I'm happy that organizations started speaking out to fans and so forth, but I feel like it's unfair to have to put it on the players, right? It's unfair for them. Like the only way we can get this guy out of here is that we have to speak up. Like,
well,
you know what I mean?
that is true.
It's unfair for them because now they just want to come in and play the game, but now it's like, all right, we have to speak up against this. We're playing for this organization, and so like it's unfair to them now that the onus is put on them, right? Because you only gave this guy a 1-year suspension, and he should be out of the league, and you know what I mean overall. So
I mean, I get it, man, because I remember like what the reaction was the day after, right? And I think like even Adam Silver was kind of like when when he was talking, it was kind of like this is kind of like the heaviest penalty we can give him, because again, it's like when we talked about the Deshaun Jackson thing, right? And it's not the same, but it's limits to the punishments that they can levy. Like, even if we're more or less offended by different things, you know what I mean? If it's conduct that's detrimental or whatever it is, the penalty is the penalty. You know what I mean? So, again, I think the important thing is he's out. But it's not going to be the last that you hear about something like this because a lot of people who are wealthy, entitled, don't have any insight. So they're gonna do what they want to do until they held accountable. So there you go.
yeah. Yeah, it's I feel like this is just gonna be the storyline for the Suns as they go through the season until the sale is finalized. Like I don't think they found someone to buy the team yet. However, I just feel like as they're going through the season, if they hit a losing streak, right, that's going to be the first question that they get asked, right? They're going to be in Devin Booker's face. They're going to be in CP3's face. They're going to, oh, is this a distraction? Is this that? This is that. It's unfair. But we'll see. Hopefully they can get that, resolved and they can get another owner in there. So we'll see.
Yeah, let's see what happens with that.
All right, so on not to be outdone, okay, you got racists in the NBA and the ownership, all right, but we can't be outdone for our typical general public folks that like to spread and spew all types of racism, all right? So right after we aired our last episode, all right, the trailer for the new Little Mermaid movie dropped, all right? The teaser trailer was released a couple weeks ago. It's Disney's new live action reboot of The Little Mermaid, and it's starring Halle Bailey, my fault, from the music group Chloe Bailey, right? Yeah, don't kill me on that. All right. So many people were excited. Like when this trailer dropped, like many people were excited, especially a lot of young girls that were excited to see the new look on the princess. It resonated, especially with, little younger African American girls. However, there were quite a few people that were very upset over Ariel being played by a Black woman for the reason in that just 2 days after it was released, it had generated about 1.5 million dislikes from angry people or quote unquote fans, all right, that flooded with racist tweets and messages such as the hashtag not my Ariel. Some comments included the Little Mermaid is white, not black. She looks nothing like the original. How do we know she's a mermaid? And like people were just going in, right? It got to the point where I think Disney had to disable their dislike button or their feature on there just because it was just a whole bunch of negative backlash. And of course, people took to Twitter. They're over there, making all types of racist comments and statements about the movie and about the actress. Let me get this straight, Jack. So people were upset about the race of a fictional character. Is this to my understanding? Right?
Yeah, man.
I just want to make sure, right? I just really have to make sure. Like people are upset about a fictional character. Okay.
You don't remember what happened with Spider-Man?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I mean, I want to point out
with Spider-Man. The same thing happened with, remember, it happened with Annie, one of the Star Wars movies, I remember.
That's Annie.
And even now, like even now with the Game of Thrones, with the House of Dragon, you know, they have a diverse cast, biracial children, you know, you see a lot of those type comments, right? I just recently saw another story. Listen, people gonna have problems with these diverse casts. I don't know if you saw the story about the kid from Stranger Things, the black child from Stranger Things. And he was talking about a lot of the racist comments and encounters he's had over the years, stemming from roles in the show and just people that just don't like him being a part of the show, right? So it's things that we're gonna have to deal with, but specifically when you look at this, right? Something like The Little Mermaid or Annie or Star Wars, yo, we've seen this before, and I've said this before, like people have this insistence and this kind of drive to kind of cling on to things that aren't even necessarily traditions, like they're more like routines. You know what I mean? They're not really traditions because they don't really mean anything when you dig into it. It's just things that they're just used to doing, right? They're just used to it being a certain way. And then it's like, so you know, they get uncomfortable. You know, and again, when they push back, like I'm looking at the article and they're talking about, they're using terms like white erasure. Like they really, like, you have people that really feel like, you know, like they're losing the country, they're losing popular culture, they're losing these things. And it's just funny because a lot of the people that are outraged don't know their own, you know, history or the things that they're arguing for. You know, then I start looking at this and they're saying like the original story is a Danish fairy tale, right? And the Little Mermaid is green.
How about that?
So she's not even white. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's one of those things where it's like people are arguing over nothing and it's fictional, bro.
Yeah, so you mentioned just the pattern that people have gotten used to, right? Because every princess has been white, right? If you go you know, you go think back to Snow White, you think about Cinderella, you think about all of these other different princesses. And that's the thing where people are so quick because they have these deeply entrenched beliefs of what a princess should look like given what has come before, that they want to keep that the same. And you're not even thinking where it's a situation where, okay, one, again, it's a fictional character. Two, there are still plenty of other different Disney princesses that are white, and you can still maintain, you know, whatever your belief and that whatever those views are. And then, Jay, you can still watch the original movie. It's not like they removed it, right? It's not like not even like they took it away.
And then not to mention, maybe Disney is realizing, like, when that Princess and the Frog came out and, you know, they saw Tiana and the reaction that all of these little girls had. And maybe when they actually saw, like, the sales of the toys and all of these things that, because, again, I know a lot of families and moms and dads and different people that made an effort to get that, you know, those toys with that image for their kids, especially that year all of that merch came out. So maybe they looked at the response and they said, this is a demographic that we haven't been catering to enough because they spend a lot of money too. You know, so maybe it's a financial decision because, you know, again, after that, you started seeing a lot of cartoons coming out, you know, where they specifically made an effort to include ethnically diverse characters. And that's why I brought up the Miles, I forget, whatever, but it was just
Into the Spider Universe. Part.
Yeah. And again, there was a lot of backlash when that came out. You know what I mean? There was a lot of backlash when I believe what's his name? That's the rapper and he's in Atlanta. I forget his name. It's on the tip of my tongue right now. In the show Atlanta, it's a show.
Childish Gambino.
Yeah, Childish Gambino. Remember when he was in the Star Wars movie? I think the the character he played, I believe, is white originally, right? I'm not sure.
No, you know what it was? No, it was the other character, the Asian character. I know
right?
What
you know what I'm talking about,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
what? It was some controversy in there. So you just have people, man. They're holding on to again. I just gotta call them just old routines, right? Because they're not traditions. Because traditions have meaning. You know what I mean? Like a movie may have meaning to you. You know what I mean? But it's not a moment in history. It's not a language. You know what I mean? It's a movie. So
right. And that's the thing. Like most of the people that will be upset about this, you're adults, right? We were all young when The Little Mermaid came out. We were children. So the children now who would see this new movie when it comes out next year or the year after, they don't really know about or not going to be as connected to The Little Mermaid back then, right?
Right.
Because that's not part of their childhood. They're growing up with the new Disney because Disney has evolved, right? They're progressive. Like, so they're growing up with the new Lion King, the live action. They're growing up with the new with the new Aladdin. They're growing up with the new Little Mermaid. And that's all they're going to know, right? They're going to know this. Of course, they can go back and watch the previous or the original movie, but it's just like, again, people are going to great lengths just to spur hate. And it's unfortunate, right? I've seen there was some people that took a trailer, they engineered it where they made the trailer, they made Holly's skin tone white. Like it, I mean, they're going through all types of great lengths, man. And it's unfortunate because even the original, the voice actor that did Ariel's voice and the one, she's 100% on board with the with the reboot. And that's the thing, it's a reboot, right? Again, like it's not like they're trying to redo, it's a reboot, it's a live action. And so I remember, like you mentioned, with the Princess and the Frog, they did the same thing for Mulan, right? Big thing as far as in the Asian community where they were able to finally see representation for themselves. So right, some of these movies, people identify with, and it's just it's unfortunate, man. It really is. But special shout out to Miss Bailey, because she has gracefully risen above the negativity and she's handled this this situation like a true professional. She appreciates and was grateful for the outpouring of love. And so I'm excited for this movie. I think, again, it's gonna be great for this generation that's currently watching movies. And Disney is continuing to progress forward. They continue to be evolve, and it's cool. So it's just unfortunate, man. Like you said, it comes out every so often when productions, TV, movies are more inclusive, right? They're showing their diversity, but it's rough out here.
Yeah, go see The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, go watch the old one. There you go. All right. So on to the music industry. All right. Jay, you a Meg Thee Stallion fan?
Yeah, I mean, I like some of her songs. Yeah.
You just like the songs?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, she's okay. All right. I like the way you sidestepped that. Very nice.
Yeah. No, I like her style too. I like her style.
Okay. All right. All right.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing. Meg recently unveiled a website for her fans that is full of mental health resources, from therapy information to emergency hotlines. And the website is fittingly titled "Bad Bitches Have Bad Days Too." All right. So there's a quote displayed on the website. It says, "Bounce back like bad bitches always do." I'm loving it. All right. So the Bad Bitches Have Bad Days Too also compiles 4 different categories of resources: free therapy organizations, mental health hotlines, resource directories, and the LGBTQIA plus community resources. And each category features a menu of useful links to also to external mental health websites, many of which are focused on Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and also those of the LGBTIAQ plus community. And then at the end of the page, the site says it has like the Find a Therapist link. So I know she talked about the website recently, and this is her quote. She says, "You know how much mental wellness means to me, so I created a hub with resources that can help you find when you might need a hand." And so she has, check it out, love y'all much, and that's the end of the quote. I like this, Jeff. I like this a lot. Like this is
Well, I
really,
mean, listen,
you know,
I'm not gonna say much about this, but what I will say is, um, I don't think it's a gimmick, right? I think this is really an area that she kind of believes in because she's talked to the New York Times about it before.
yeah,
She's spoken in interviews about it before. Um, and listen, sometimes stars do a lot of stuff for attention and this and that, but she does have a large following, right? She does influence people. You've seen, we don't know what her fan base is going to grow to be, right? But think about if Beyonce's passion was mental health and she just had the beehive focused on, or Brianna's Navy, or who knows, like these people have large followings. So
right.
if she's promoting a good cause, you got to give her credit. And the reason why I say it's not a gimmick, if it was just the title and just her song Anxiety or whatever, I would say it's smelling gimmicky, right? But um it's direct action included, right? So they have that find a therapist button, that redirects you to a psychologist, licensed, qualified, um, and so they actually took the time to take that extra step. Like think about how many people will say, "Oh, you have a gambling problem, dial this number." All right. But they're taking it a step further. They're saying if you need help in your area, boom,
Mm-hmm.
So I think the direct action part of it, um, I think that kind of adds the teeth I would be looking for, in order for me to say, like, I think it's a legitimate kind of passion of hers. So, I'm not gonna knock her. I appreciate the help.
I do. I agree with that. She's talked about mental health for quite some time. I remember reading in an article or some interview last year where she talked about how instrumental therapy has been with the death of her parents. I know her parents
Okay.
passed away at two different times. I know her. I think it was her mom more recently. She talked about how therapy was really helpful on Taraji P Henson's episode. What's that called? Peace of Mind, the Facebook thing that she has, that platform.
Okay.
She opened up
Mm-hmm.
about her mental health struggles. And then she also started a charity in honor of her late parents. Um, that I think it's called like the Pete and Thomas Foundation, which provides mental health aid and education and like housing and health. What I like about your point was that it's not like she's just another celebrity using their platform, right? Just to say, oh, there's something about mental health. And I'm not knocking them either because any attention is good attention. However, what I like is that with her given her style, like she normalizes and is encouraging her fans to
Mm.
utilize mental health, right? What separates her is that she doesn't hold back anyway, right? Just kind of given her persona, she never holds back. She's very outspoken. She owns who she is. She wears what she wears. She shakes her ass. She wants to shake her ass. If she wants to rap, she wants to rap. She wants to sing. She raps about sex, female pressure, and that resonates with a lot of young Black women, right? So, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, if she's getting that message and she's talking about anxiety in her song, and then she's also saying, "Hey, well, it's not just on the song. Go check out the website." Right? Like the way,
Right.
even the manner that she's presenting it is like, "Yo, bad bitches have bad days too." So you can still consider yourself to be a bad bitch to feel this way, but guess what? Like, even though you feel great and look bad on the outside, like on the inside, you need to be taking care of yourself. And so I think with her kind of leading the charge, like she's unapologetic and she's very intentional with this message, and it's coming off very genuine. So um I'm on board with this. I hope this continues to grow. Again, like you said, I hope the her clique continues to, you know, take a step back from just outside the music and all the different superficial things. And like she's promoting, look into their mental health and make sure they prioritize it. So this is good. I like
Yeah,
it.
man. I mean, I agree. So I wish her luck with it.
Absolutely. So speaking of music, I did want to provide this update. So on our last episode, we talked about unfortunately how PNB The music artist was unfortunately gunned down at a restaurant out there on the West Coast. And so just a couple of days ago, there has been an update in regarding his case.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a man that was arrested in Vegas and his 17-year-old son, who actually is suspected that pulled the trigger, were both arrested and charged with murder in the fatal shooting. So it was an FBI-led fugitive task force that took the 40-year-old and the 17-year-old into custody. And there was another lady, I think the mom or the guy, the 40-year-old's wife or significant other,
Right.
whoever, was also charged with conspiracy to commit murder and adding and abetting and all those different things. But I am happy at least that this, they were able to catch the suspects, and the judicial system will do their due diligence and go through the court system. So I'm happy at least for his family, they can start to get some resolve and start the healing process of this. The girlfriend also who witnessed the situation, I'm happy that a lot of this is taking the steam off of her, because the information or details that have come out in the court hearings were that they just happened to see PNB Rock walking into the restaurant. Like there was one person,
Right.
I think they're still looking for, who saw him and then called the other people and then they rolled up on him. So it wasn't like the situation where people were trying to blame his girlfriend who posted that they were at the Chicken and Waffles. It just appeared that, at least through the information that's coming out now, is that they just, unfortunately, these guys, the assailants and the perpetrators, just took the opportunity because they happened to see him walking in with his jewelry on, and then they went off and did this heinous act. So I'm happy. Hopefully, she can also start to receive some peace as she's going through the grieving process. Um, so yeah, that's the update on that situation. So we absolutely want to continue to send thoughts and prayers to his family
I,
as they deal with this traumatic situation.
I mean, listen, man. It. I don't mean to be doom and gloom, but it gets worse the more information comes out, because see, what I think we're starting to see is we're starting to see the consequences, right, of men who have never matured, right, um, and are running away from the responsibility of raising their children. What I mean by that is, it was another rapper in Florida who's in jail for murder charges. Him and his brother and his father, another father in his 40s, was drove them to do the murder allegedly, right? You're starting to see this more and more, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're starting to see fathers in their 40s committing crimes with their sons that's in their 20s, right? And like it's starting to become a pattern, right? So, bro, his father was the getaway driver. Like I don't think people understand how serious, because think about it, yo, as a culture, we quick to get on the mothers, right? There's not all, but there's people are quick to have a stigma against the quote unquote single mom who goes out and the kids raise themselves and blah 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 blah, right? But I'm telling you right now, we seeing a pattern of fathers in their 40s that's the leaders, and then they kids who's the young boys coming up in the same groups, right? And yo, if that's not a problem, I don't know what is. But I've been saying it for a long time in terms of dinner table conversations we've had in terms of the culture, meaning like the reason why us as young men won't mature and couldn't mature is because the guys that are 10 to 12 years older than us are too much of cowards to say that the things that they was doing that led them to go to prison or whatever consequences they had to pay were wrong.
No, you're right.
Think about it. We have a culture where, think about it, yo. We have a culture where it's like you have men that are in their late 30s, early 40s. They've been living in the suburbs for 15 years, and they still won't tell you that the things that they say on records are entertainment. This is the result of that.
An additional issue to the men not being present in the community was, all right, the men that were present in the community, or the ones that were looked up to the older figures, they were misleading the young, right? They were giving out terrible information. They, even to the extent of like you said, if you didn't have a father figure, right, where were you getting your information as a young person coming up? You were getting it from the dude off the block, right? You were doing the old heads. The old
Yeah, or
heads were
your uncle
misinforming
or
you.
whoever
Yeah,
was near,
whoever was near you.
your uncle,
So
your brother, whoever.
so like for the majority that don't have a prominent or positive figure, right? If it wasn't their uncle, if it wasn't like their older brother, they were getting it out there from the old head on the block. They were getting it from the old head. You know he's misinforming you, right? Because he's informing you to do the same dumb stuff,
Yep.
things that he was doing. Now, if you got someone that is possibly in your life, right? If you do have a father or a father figure, and if he's giving out, if he's passing down or informing you of these values, like you just talked about, like the pattern that we're seeing, where that's a whole nother issue in itself. We're even more in
Bro,
danger.
that's why I said it's a reflection of. But think about it. It's selfless. It's selfish, right? And it's irresponsible. But I understand somebody who's already lost, right? Who's already ruined their own life, coming home from jail and trying to pluck somebody else that's vulnerable and then manipulate them, right? I'm not saying I condone it, but I understand it.
No, you get it, right?
Right? That's a wolf preying on vulnerable sheep, right? But do you know how dysfunctional and downright ignorant you have to be a 40-year-old man and not only drag your children into the street life, right? But then facilitate them engaging in criminal activity? Do you know how much of a low life you have to be? Like seriously, I don't care what the circumstances are, because you can't say it's for your family. It's because you hungry. Because if it was really that serious, you wouldn't be taking your kid out if you were stealing or doing something for survival. No. So for you to be facilitating that, bro, we got a lot more. We're in a lot deeper than we think.
That's self-preservation, you know, and I know, where it's like, I'm gonna drive my teenager to whatever this location is. I'm gonna put the gun in your hand and tell them, go get them, right? Go rob.
I'm gonna be waiting in the car.
Right? I'm gonna wait in the car. And if anything happens, they're not gonna try you as an adult. You a juvenile. You like, you know, the game that's being spit, and it's unfortunate, man. Like it's so
to your son,
so disgusting on so many levels. So many levels. Where you look at it, where it's like, all right, well, if I got this guy in my life, am I better off with this just being fatherless, right? If this is the type of values or information that you passing down to me, so you don't go to jail, or so you don't go, it's like, yo, like
I was talking to my mom today about dude in Florida with both his sons is locked up for murder, and he testified against both of them and got out of jail. I'm not condoning any of the activity, but what I'm saying is, at what point you bring your sons into gang activity, into that life, right? And then you decide to tell on them. I'm not condoning any of it, but what I'm saying is, we're in very deep when you have patterns of fathers that are in their 40s, late 40s, and they are facilitating the activity that their sons are engaging in. It's crazy.
Self-preservation, man. I'd rather, you know what? Let me put it on them, because I'm not getting locked up. And you know, it's manipulation. It's a lot of different things. You know,
but your son, I don't, bro.
Different.
I don't even have
different.
I don't have a hot take. I don't have an intelligent comment. I'm just in awe. I'm gonna just be very honest. Like, I'm just in awe at the ignorance. If we being honest, I can't.
Man, listen, it's within the same realm of parents, and you've seen this, Jay. Unfortunately, we both have, of parents that pimp out their kids, right? You know, and I know the human trafficking. You know, so you know there are dads and moms that send their daughters out, teenagers. Oh, right. Well, go out and go get this, go such and such, right? Sending them directly into harm's way.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
same realm, man. Same level, same. I don't care how much training that we've gotten and how much experience that we continue to get as we work in this field, Jay. I don't know if that's something I'm ever really gonna fully comprehend. You know?
Yeah. I mean, listen, man. I agree, bro. But like I said, I'm just starting to I'm starting to see this more and more, man. I knew we was going to talk about it at some point. You kind of surprised me with that because I didn't think we was going to talk about it tonight, so I was kind of caught off guard. But
hey, man, yeah, had to give the
I'm not.
people an update, man, because
Yeah,
this
I'm not
is
saying it. I'm not saying it like that, but I just think, like culturally, man, like there's some hard conversations that people need to have, right? And I'm not condemning anybody that has a criminal record, right? Because anybody can make mistakes, right? Sure. But I think the problem is, I think we haven't gotten to a point, and that's why I always bring up the example of multi-million-dollar rappers that are still afraid to tell you what they rapping about as entertainment at this point in their career, right? Because the pull is that the allure is that strong. You know what I'm saying? Where not even for your son, not even for your family, definitely not for your culture, will you come out of a situation like that, where you might have been incarcerated, this and that, and say like, yo, don't do that. You know what I mean? Like the mentality is still, when people come out, it's like the mentality that some people have when they graduate from high school, college, they masters. It's like, yo, you go put in your work now. I got my stripes. Like that's just the mentality of too many people. And you're seeing the result of it,
Yeah, it's just that impaired insight, man. Because
how are you the getaway driver for your child?
Yeah. Because you're sending them out there to go do it. Like, hey, you go do that. I'll be right here. This is what to do. Right. But if you have someone that already has impaired insight, and now they're passing on even more dysfunctional information to someone, and you got to look at it even from the kid's view, right? Or the team. This is somebody who's supposed to be protecting me. So their perspective is, oh, well, my dad is running. He's telling me game, right? He's spitting me game. He's doing this. He's giving me information. He has me out here. Like, I can only imagine just the conversation and the warped all types of dialogue that you're passing on to your kid, right? But again, the kid is thinking like, all right, well, this is love, right? This is my dad is looking out for me. He's telling me this so I can survive. He's giving me these lessons and the tools to survive, not knowing that you're a pawn. Like, he's literally manipulating his relationship with you so he can stay out of jail, or so he thinks, right? So you take the fall and you go earn your stripes now. Like you said, there are hard conversations that we have to have. These are uncomfortable conversations because you have to look at it where, all right, you want somebody in the home, but do you want that person, right? Is that person doing more damage? Okay, I understand that we want to make our family home. You want the man in the household. Totally for that. But is it worth this particular man? If this is, if this is what he's bringing to the table?
I mean, listen. As far as I know, they locked his mother up too, right?
Yeah, they locked the mom up. They locked him up. They locked, yeah. So and the person that was the lookout. Yeah, listen, man, it's.
So who knows, man?
So we'll see. But Jay, anything else before we get out of here, good brother?
Not much, man. Just, of course, we want to thank everybody that take the time to listen. We appreciate it. One more thing, anytime, if anybody has any topics that they feel might be interesting, drop them in my DM. Feel free, drop them in Dr. Osborne DM. We always appreciate the support.
Yes, sir. And don't forget, just as Meg Thee Stallion said, prioritize your mental health. So make sure you shop mentalhealthclothing.com. You already see Jay and I with the fit. You already see.
Definitely.
You see us out here. You see what I mean? You see what I mean?
Definitely.
It's hoodie season. It's cold and it's windy out there. So go to that website and go pick yourself up a hoodie. All right, that's the way
definitely.
I'm do it.
Getting ready to put some new stuff in there up there in about a month. So
there it is. There it is. All right, Jay. Without further ado, my man, we are out of here. You guys continue to support all the streaming platforms on YouTube. We appreciate it. Jay, until next time, my good brother.
No doubt, bro. Later.
All right.